Hi, Steve VonBrandt here for the Bass College. We're down here at the Upper Bay at Anchor Marine getting ready to do some fall fishing with our Pro Staff Mike Sentore, Mike Ward, our Pro Staff Marketing Director, and Ben Werbos over here. We're going to run out of the Northeast here first and show you some fall tips and tactics, and we'll see you down on the bay.
You know, I've been down here so many times now that I don't necessarily have to come down and practice. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on, things changing during the season. But the biggest thing that I pay attention to is our tides. One of the things that I found is when I fish at high tide, the fish will take to a moving bait better. If I'm bumping it off the rocks or if I'm bumping off of a laydown, because at low tide, a lot of times those fish will move off of those places and they're less active. That's times when I find that a shaky head or a drop shot or dragging a jig are better techniques, slower moving baits and finesse. So right now, of course, I have my Hummingbird 360, my range set at 80 feet.
Right.
And so each ring is good for 20 feet. So basically you got 20, 40, 60, 80.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you, your casting area, if you will. Now, over here in front of this opening and sort of around this bend a little bit, we're gonna see a bunch of structure. You can see some of it starting right here. So let's there's different angles here we're going to see, but you see these shadows being created.
Yep.
This is all big pile of junk piles. There's laydowns in here. There's debris. There's all kinds of stuff. You can see it here if you look at my rod tip. I'm stuck in it already. And just by me coming here and just fishing as I normally would, I found this stuff.
What a better image than the Lowrance spotlight. It's night and day.
It's unbelievable.
Night and day difference.
So right now I'm looking at this edge, which is our wall, and then I'm looking at this debris that's right here is creating a shadow, and it allows me to make pinpoint casts, right to what it is that I'm trying to fish here. And these are the kind of places that you'd want to look for fish on a low tide. So we have a dead slack low tide, but I'm going to try, casting my jig out and bumping over some of this structure down here to see if we can come up. Just pop right off just by going on the other side of it.
Yeah, a lot of times that people get worried about that when they get all hung up with the jigs and the rocks and laydowns, but if a lot of times you can boomerang that right off or bow and arrow it off or whatever you want to call that. Sure. And and if it doesn't pop off, just by changing the angle of the boat just slightly, you can still stay away from the spot just like Mike did, and it'll come right off. You just have to, develop a feel for that and practice it like anything else.
If coming off our point here, it's kind of like a big flat, and then you've got two big giant rocks or pieces of structure. You can see the shadow behind it. That's how big it is.
Yep.
So if I'm looking right off the right of my my electronics here or off my boat, I'm looking at about 25 to 30 feet away,
30 feet.
And that can allow me to sort of cast about that far away and drag my jig back until I hit that structure that's offshore.
Yeah, that is a much better setup.
Well, here it is right here. I'm on it now. See my rod tip bent? Just coming up over it. It says now I can turn my trolling motor so that I can look at that at 12 o'clock.
Right.
Look, and once I'm on it, there you go. Look, here I'm stuck. I'm on it now. I can target those individual items. I want to try to stay off the bank right now because we have a really low tide, lower than normal. So I just wanted to hit a couple spots that have debris that's off the shoreline. I did get a bite here at the first stop, and something went off with my jig, and I had him stuck for a minute, and it popped off.
So you said like if you were say pre-fishing for a tournament or you were in a tournament, what you would have done there was probably just use a light line technique. You'd have used a shaky head or something like that on this type of a tide.
Sure.
So right now we're just going to run to a different spot and see if they'll hit a crankbait and a jig.
But with this low water still, I'm probably going to still finesse fish. But after I go through an area, sometimes if the water gets moving here for us, then I'll probably start throwing some moving baits.
Okay.
I just moved it so we could see the shoreline to 100 feet. I'm going to go back to view here. I'm sorry, back to the menu, and I'm going to put it back to 80 feet. So that's a number that I feel like I can cast 80 feet. So if we're looking here now, if I take the front of my boat and I sort of, put myself at 12 o'clock, you can see it sort of is a bend, a drop off, and there's a lay down on that pole.
Now here's Mike just picked this fish up. I honestly didn't have the camera on because I was shocked. We were talking about the one thing different, isolated cover, and you've got a section like this, a great big seawall with pylons on it, and it's all the same, but there was one thing different. And when using that Hummingbird 360, he says, now you see, here's a laydown, and that's the one thing that's different.
Yeah, that's I was just talking to Mike here, and I basically just pointed out, by looking at my 360, I could come in here and I see a seawall that's full of pilings. Well, okay, well, do you fish all the pilings? Well, sure you can. But the one thing that's different down this whole wall is that there's a single laydown that was right in this area. I saw it, I pinpointed it, I targeted it, I threw a drop shot right on top of it, and boom, there's a fish.
And that's the key here, really, is being able to maximize your time on the water. You have to fish every one of these pylons without being able to see that. And yet you've got a whole bay to cover and 5 rivers. And it's just not possible. You can spend a whole week and not really even touch some of the key spots. But with that 360 sonar, understanding what you see, you can come up along that seawall and pick it out just like Mike did and say, well, this is a great looking area, but I see the one thing that's different about it is it drops off a little bit here, or here's a rock, or like he said, here's a little laydown on it. And you come right in and pick out the key areas to fish in there and really maximize your time.
That's it. Well, the bass really tend to like the one thing different. So, one of the nice things about having a seawall is all the same. So if you can find one piece of structure on it different, you can see the debris, it's creating shadows, the stuff that's kind of all far right here and behind us. And so, I'm going to look to target cast, to that debris that you're seeing that's off the shore. So with the casts kind of in this neighborhood here, and slow drags, if they pulled out here, and this is a good shaky head spot too. Hope this is the right kind. It feels good. Yet.
What type of line are you using there, Mike?
Now I have 8-pound trilene, 100% fluoro. Oh yeah. There she is. It's an offshore Hummingbird 360 fish.
And that's just a little shaky head. What bait is that?
Yeah, just a little zoom finesse worm.
Yeah, I saw it's a pretty small little wormy, right?
Yeah. There she goes. So this here is a fish that was caught about, I don't know, 100 yards offshore. I found some structure with my Hummingbird 360, and these are the kind of quality fish that you can catch when you have the electronics to do so and a little bit of time to look around.
And we're on the worst tide you could have. I mean,
sure,
this is not a good
dead
tide.
Low slack tide, and little finesse action, and there you go. It's a good fish. Sometimes I throw the drop shot, more specifically if I know I'm going to hang in a lot of debris. There's a lot of debris down here, so sometimes I can bring my bait to it and wiggle that little worm in front of their face and look for that bite.
I found that that drop shot works better when it's like debris or structure down there like you're talking about. But I think that shaky head, like especially on the Potomac, worked better when you were pitching it up on the docks or the seawall.
Of course, sure. There's definitely a time and place for everything. You can see just a minute ago, our boat was sitting in 12 to 15 feet of water. Right now, the front of my boat's in 5.
So yeah, that hole's definitely.
So it's basically, we've got a point that's way out here with some debris on it, and you know, with some deep water they can move up and down, and you know, and then on high tide you can find them over top of that metal barge up there.
We'll see.
Little bass.
Got a bass right off this point. Look at that.
The old Bill Lewis rattle trap.
That's just what we were talking about.
Yep.
How you know, people just underutilize that rattle trap all times a year.
Yep.
Especially in shallow water, they don't want to throw it, but it's a bait to throw. Right here.
Yeah, right off the point.
No secret. It's just, you know, bearing down and working it.
A nice little point, nice little grass edge.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, you're on a turn, you're by rocks, you're where the grass flats are, you've got a channel, you've got deep water access, but yet, you know, they can move right in and out.
Oh yeah.
Plenty of bait fish. I mean, those are all the things. The watercolor is good.
Yeah, sure is. Everything's good.
Now see, there's a little spot that you wouldn't notice without having it be a dead low tide like that, how that rock there is normally in a couple feet of water. Something a little different there, right on the turn. Here we go, working chatterbaits along this point. This is a nice one. There we go, on a chatterbait. So we were just looking, there's eelgrass in here and some other types of grass, and we were talking about that, where a couple different kinds of grass come together near a turn, a little drop off, some rocks, and it's got wood cover.
Yeah, nice, you know, two and a half pounder. Not a giant,
But still, if it's a tough day, you had 5.
Oh yeah, sure.
It always helps.
Sure, just saw those isolated little clumps of grass and threw that white chatterbait in there. White in the fall is never bad.
Mike, what are you throwing in the back?
I am throwing one of those chatterbaits, but it's got the little different blade that has the holes in it.
Yeah.
And it gives it a lot more of an erratic swimming motion.
Yeah, I like that personally, because I really put a lot of action in the chatterbait. I really work a chatterbait.
And I've got a
Picasso?
white.
Is that a Picasso?
It's a
Nichols?
actually you know, we market it as a river pig jig.
Oh, river.
Oh, you made those, yeah.
But it's, you know, the basic style, Arky style head that you get, you know, that Z-Man produces.
Yeah.
And then we got our own skirt on it, and then our own blade that's a little different, puts off more of a bubble trail and creates more of an erratic swimming action. And I just have a ribbon tail white worm that I cut down and put on the back of it just to give it a little more action in the water.
Well, if they want to check out some of those chatterbaits or the jigs, they can just link right through our site and go over to River Pig Jigs on your site, Hook, Line, and Sinker, and check some of those out. Mike makes those jigs and chatterbaits. I like this little section coming up.
Oh yeah, me too. There's some guys that were just
Usually the water's ripping through there so hard,
Yeah.
but today I don't think that's going to be the case.
That grass dies, they use it, you know, quite a bit.
Now, Mike, what reel are you using there? That's the Lew's?
Yep, this is one of the Lew's Tournament Pros. It's It's got the carbon fiber handles, the new EVA foam handles with the little cork edging on the sides of it.
Yeah.
And it's a 6/8 to 1.
So, Mike, you fished all of the Jersey stuff, and you probably fished up north like I have up around, what, Lake Hopatcong and Netcong and
Sure.
all in there, and up in the Round Valley, and probably worked all those places, huh?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have fished, you know, a lot of the New Jersey lakes, you know, from my club days and just sort of experimenting. You know, I've had a lot of smaller boats over the years, aluminum john boats, you know, with 9/9 outboards, and, you know, a 24-volt trolling motor, and yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time, you know, basically learning to fish on the smaller impoundments.
Well, that's how I learned, and that's how Roland Martin learned out here on the same waters that we're fishing on some of the lakes over here in Maryland and New Jersey, and
Yep. You know, then I think in 2005 is when I purchased my first, you know, bass boat, if you will. I got a 19-foot Express with a 200 horsepower Mercury, and you know that sort of allowed me to, you know, fish the Delaware River more in the Chesapeake Bay, and you know, and sort of travel. You know, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it was only 10 years ago, you know, I had purchased a bass boat.
right.
You know, and started to compete here.
It seems like yesterday for
Yeah,
me.
it does.
I mean, that's 10 years ago for you, and to me, when you're talking about it, it seems like, oh, I can remember like the first bass boat that we really had, and now you stop and you think, this coming year, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah, I had a 20-year-old Ranger, a 391 Ranger 391, you know, Comanche with a 200 horse Mercury, and repowered it with a 175, and had a ZX20 Skeeter, and now the new 2016 FX 21 limited edition. Yeah, I really enjoy places you can go and fire up the outboard and, you know, try to figure out the fish, especially
Yeah.
on tidal water. For me.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. I mean, learning those small ponds and lakes really teaches you
Major case.
about what bass do and how to catch them when they're tough. You only have a small little area, really, and you've got to, you know, really work it, and you learn the baits and how they react, and you get to see all the things that are going on, and it's a good starting point. It really is.
You have to be versatile, you know, to compete, because conditions always change. And you know, by joining a club back in 2002, when I first started club fishing, you know, one of the great things about being in a club, there's other people who are fishing, you know, the same conditions you were on that same small lake. So, you know, after the tournaments, we would talk about how we caught our fish, why we felt like we caught our fish, what we caught them on. And, you know, I'll tell you, one of the things that I remember like yesterday is every time somebody caught a big fish, I'd ask them, how did you catch your big fish? It was on a jig. It was on a jig. It was always on a jig.
It's always on a
It
jig.
was always on a jig. So, you know, one of the things that I made myself do early was get a bait caster. I bought a bunch of jigs, and I would go fishing, and that's the only bait I would bring.
Yeah. And that's the way we tell people in the forums. We have an article on that and a video on that too, and we talk about how to learn a new bait. And you bring nothing but that bait, because you will switch up if you have other baits there. You go out just with a frog, and you frog fish all day. You go out with a jig and you jig fish until you have mastered that technique. And like we were talking about earlier, it's amazing all the things you can do with a jig. I mean, you can flip it in, you can pitch it, you could punch with a jig, you can swim the jig, make it act like a spinner bait. I mean, all different types of cover. So it's a super versatile bait. It's not just something you flip into a dock or a lay down, hop it a couple times. I mean, it can be used so many different ways.
If you said you can only have one bait on the boat for the day, I'd say give me a box of jigs.
Yes, I would too. It used to be a 6-inch black straight tail worm, but now I would say give me a jig.
Yep.
Our Pro Staff Ben Werbos and his partner coming up. We're doing a little pre-fishing today while we're doing some fall bass fishing and sonar tips for you. Have a nice sized tournament here. It's a local tournament, but draws quite a few boats. Pays really good money. So we're doing a little pre-fishing for that. Ben's one of our new pro staff. He's a good stick here on the Upper Bay in New Jersey. Wins a lot of tournaments, the Salem Canal. And we're going to see what we can find here. This is one of Chad Pipkin's spots that he was fishing during the Elite Series. Mike showed him that spot, and Chad fished here for a couple days. I think I have some video of the Elite Series where he's landing a bass on this. So Ben Werbos, tell me about the creek. How'd you do? You had some fish.
Yeah, the creek was pretty good today. It's pretty muddy. It was a little bit colder in there, like 52-degree water temps, but they were clinging to wood real hard.
Yeah.
They were on the bulkheads, and they were deep in the tree too.
How did you do in the canals in there?
We didn't do much in there.
They've been turned off to me recently. They're better up at the island, at the split, and up on the wall.
They were tight in there.
Yeah.
And then the bulkhead heading into was pretty good. They were up on there pretty tight.
Yeah. Now sometimes they're really on that bulkhead, aren't they? And then other times it just nothing.
There's times you can get up and down it once or twice and get a real nice limit.
Yeah.
Call out some fish at the end of the day. And there's other times you can't buy a bite on there.
Yeah. This is one of the better spots right here. Ben Werbos fishing here. Heading into the mouth of the Susquehanna River here on the Upper Bay. Yeah, but you've got the tide is definitely coming in now. So you got that moving water, and you've got a decent water temperature, 63.5. This is a full 3.5 degrees warmer than everywhere else. And you've got cloud cover and a little breeze picking up. I mean, that's a spinnerbait, chatterbait bite to me. Mike Sentore with a little better one on up here in the front. It's on a chartreuse spinnerbait, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The a little better quality fish.
Yeah.
You had them
Doubled up.
Yeah.
Let's see that, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Turn it around this way. Oh yeah, that's a nice fish, isn't it? Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it, man. Come back and see him tomorrow.
There's a lot of grass in there, Ben. There was some grass on the flats that just looked so good. A couple different kinds, still fresh and green, you know, coming together in one area, and they just weren't there.
Really well out here early in the summer on this side.
Yeah.
But then it got really choked out.
Yeah.
It got tough to fish.
Little keeper.
Getting ready to end up the day here with Mike Sentore and Mike Ward out here on the Northeast River, pre-fishing for the tournament tomorrow. Ben Werbos is still out there and getting ready to talk to him before we pull out of here. And we'll see you guys tomorrow down at the tournament.
Last bass of the day on the Chesapeake Bay.
There you go. Down here with Mike Sentore and Mike Ward. Ben Werbos is still up in the creek and getting ready to fish the tournament tomorrow. So we'll see you next time down here on the water.